So today, let's talk about something that's absolutely foundational to Islamic worship, the rules of wudu, or ritual purity. You might think it's just about washing up, right? But it's so much more than that. It's really about preparing your mind, your heart, and your spirit for prayer.
And this quote right here, it really nails it. Wudu isn't just about being physically clean. It's a conscious act that helps you shift your focus, clear out all the mental noise, and get you ready to be fully present in your worship. It's that first crucial step in building that spiritual connection.
Okay, so we've got the why down. It's about getting focused and ready. But what about the how? How do we actually maintain this state of purity? Well, first things first, we've got to know what breaks it. So let's dive into the practical stuff, what are known as the nullifiers of wudu. When you look at the source material, it really boils down to four main things, four primary actions that will undo your wudu. Let's break down exactly what they are. Okay, so here are the four big ones. Number one, anything that exits from the body's private parts. Number two, losing consciousness, like in a deep sleep. Three is a very specific kind of skin contact. And four, touching one's own private parts. Now, the details for each of these are super important, so let's take a closer look. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. For that first point, anything exiting literally means anything. Wind, other substances, you name it. But here's a really important distinction. Semen is in a totally different category. That requires a full-body purification, called ghusl, not just wudu. Then we have losing awareness. Think fainting or really deep sleep. But there's a key exception. If you just lightly doze off while you're sitting up straight and firmly planted, your wudu is still good. The third one is very precise. We're talking about direct skin-to-skin contact with no barrier between an adult man and woman who are non-mahram, meaning they could legally marry each other. And finally, number four is touching your own private parts directly with the palm of your hand or the inside of your fingers. Okay, so we know what breaks wudu. The big question is, so what? Why does it even matter? What are the specific things, the acts of worship that you actually can't do without this state of purity? Let's get into the prohibitions. This table is super helpful because it lays it all out. You can see there are different levels of impurity. Look at that first column. That's for minor impurity, where you just need to redo your wudu. In that state, you can't perform salah, you can't do tawaf, and you can't touch the physical Quran. But now look at the other columns for major impurity, or during menstruation. The list gets longer. It then also includes things like reciting the Quran and even staying in a mosque. So you can see it's a graded system with specific rules for each state. By the way, we just saw the word tawaf on that chart. For anyone who might not know, tawaf is that beautiful act of worship where you walk in circles around the Kaaba in Mecca. It's a huge part of the Hajj and Umrah pilgrimages, and as we just saw, it absolutely requires you to be in a state of ritual purity. Okay, so we've gone over the rules, right? But theory is one thing and real life is another. How does this all actually play out in our day-to-day? This next part is all about answering some of those common questions that make these ideas so much more relatable. Here's a classic one. We just talked about that skin-to-skin contact rule, right? So what does that mean when it comes to your own family? Does touching your sister or your aunt break your wudu? And the answer here is a clear no, it doesn't. That rule about skin contact is specifically for non-mahram individuals. Touching your close relatives, the ones you're forbidden to marry, like your mom, your sister, your aunt, your daughter, that does not break your wudu at all. Here's another one I'm sure we've all wondered about. You know, you're sitting there, you doze off for just a minute. Do you have to get up and do wudu all over again? And again, it's all about the details here. It's not just any sleep that's the issue. It's about your level of awareness. A deep sleep where you've completely lost track of your surroundings? Yes, that breaks wudu. But a light doze, especially if you're still sitting upright? Nope, you're all good. Your wudu is still intact. Okay, let's get into a really modern question. Something our grandparents never had to think about. We all have the Quran on our phones, on our tablets. Do the same rules about touching the physical book apply to our digital devices? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can read the Quran on your phone without wudu. The reason is pretty interesting. The device itself, the phone or tablet, isn't considered a mushaf, that word for the sacred physical copy of the Quran. That prohibition is really specific to the bound printed book, not the electronic screen that's just displaying the text. This is another really important and specific question, one that brings a lot of clarity for women who want to understand what's permissible during their monthly cycle. And the guidance here is no. And if you think back to that table we looked at a minute ago, this makes perfect sense. Reciting the Quran and also touching the physical mushaf
falls into that list of actions that are prohibited during this particular time. All right, we've gone through a lot of rules, exceptions, and real-life scenarios. So let's kind of zoom out for a second. What's the big picture here? What's the real takeaway from all of this? Let's try to tie it all together. It really comes down to these three things. First, the whole process of wudu and maintaining purity, it's a powerful tool to build focus. It's like a mental reset button before you stand to pray. Second, think of these rules as creating these spiritual boundaries that are there to protect your heart. And finally, and this is huge, when you know the rules, it removes all that doubt and uncertainty. It gives you the confidence to worship without being distracted by, am I doing this right?
And this final thought just wraps it all up so beautifully. The whole framework of purity isn't just some list of do's and don'ts, it's a pathway. This external act of getting pure is the gateway to focused, meaningful worship. And that kind of worship, well, that's the path to real inner peace. It's a really powerful idea to end on.